A couple of weeks ago at Safeco Field, Hisashi Iwakuma pitched the fifth no-hitter in Mariners history. The Japanese hurler was outstanding as he blanked the Orioles in front of the always rowdy Seattle faithful. The A's will counter with Felix Dubron, who is coming off a fantastic performance at home versus the Dodgers. The waiver wire pickup has been a nice option for the A's in the rotation, and he will look to duplicate his outing versus the Mariners. It's Iwakuma and the Mariners taking on the A's. Game 1 of 3 is next. A's road trip starts tonight here in Seattle. We are at Safeco Field, and the pitching matchup tonight, that's the no-hit hero, Hisashi Iwakuma. He will pitch for the Seattle Mariners, and for the A's, it'll be the left-hander Felix Dubron. So we haven't seen the Mariners in a while, and the A's have not been here at Safeco since May. It's the first of 3. It's the A's and the Mariners coming up on CSN California. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Oakland A's Baseball. Along with Ray Fosse, I'm Glenn Kuiper. 2 starts ago, Hisashi Iwakuma threw a no-hitter right here at Safeco against the Orioles. And Ray, he was about as good as you can get. Obviously, he's one of those guys who can get you out up in the strike zone and low in the strike zone.
Kuiper, you know, if your name's not Felix Fernandez, you pitch a no-hitter up here, it's pretty good. And Iwakuma did that against the Baltimore Orioles. You watch his stuff. He's got a sneaky fastball. He can elevate. How about the splitter down? And that's what Kuiper was talking about. Up and down, change the eyesight. Did a very good job against the Orioles and pitching the no-hitter, the 5th of a Japanese-born pitcher. And it was here at Safeco Field. And, of course, you see the excitement. Iwakuma and the fans. It's always nice to see a no-hitter. I don't care who pitches it. That's got to be pretty special.
Indeed, especially in front of the home fans. Now, for the A's, Felix Dubron will make his second start. His first start was Tuesday against the Dodgers, and he went toe-to-toe with Clayton Kershaw, and he pitched extremely well.
Everybody thought it was going to be Sonny Gray, but he pitched Monday night, so Dubron had the chore of pitching against the Dodgers and with Clayton Kershaw on the other side, but he did a great job. He struck out 8, but you also could see the 6 walks. The most important thing, with all these great pitches, he still just gave up 1 run in 6 innings to the Dodgers. Did a great job. The A's did win that game with a come-from-behind victory, but it was great to see Dubron get a chance to start. We've seen him before, but in an A's uniform, he seems to be doing well.
All right, a beautiful night for baseball. Nice and clear and cool here at Safeco Field, just the way we like it. Up next, we'll head back inside the A's pregame live studios and then back to Seattle for lineups and the first pitch. So stick around.
you by Jack in the Box. Get the new steak and egg breakfast burrito at Jack in the Box. It's not your basic breakfast burrito. By Toyota, the full-line automaker with the longest-lasting vehicles in America. Toyota, let's go places. And by Black Bear Diner. Feed your inner bear.
Beautiful night for baseball at Safeco Field as we get set for the first of three, the A's and the Seattle Mariners. And it is a nice, comfortable night. Game time weather is presented by the Santa Cruz Beach Boardwalk. Get to the beach. The admission-free boardwalk is now open daily. Nice time of year in Seattle, 69 degrees. Basically no humidity, just the way we like it. And we're figuring that the weather's going to be like this the whole road trip, right, Ray?
Yep. Especially in Phoenix.
Yeah,
at least indoors.
Yeah, it's a little wishful thinking. Let's look at the lineup tonight for the Oakland A's. It starts with Billy Burns and then Mark Canha, Josh Reddick, Danny Valencia, Stephen Vogt, Brett Lawrie will play second, Billy Butler, Coco Crisp, and Eric Sogar.
Hisashi Iwakuma, the split-finger fastball pitcher, along with a fastball occasionally, will start for the Mariners tonight. And Iwakuma, of course, coming off a couple of starts ago, the no-hitter against the Baltimore Orioles. Rangers in his last start, but he's good. 5-2 record. He hurt a little bit in the early part of the season as just making his 13th start, but a very important member of the rotation of the Mariners, and the A's will see him in the first game of this road trip tonight.
So Iwakuma is ready in front of the home fans for the first time since that no-hitter, which was done right here at Safeco Field. So a moment to remember for Iwakuma and for the people that were here. So Billy Burns steps in. That's the giveaway tonight, the Iwakuma no-no. So we are set for baseball here at Safeco. The first pitch of the game is popped up. Cano backpedaling into shallow right field. He's under it, and he's got it for 1 out. Quick look at the defense for the Seattle Mariners tonight. In the outfield, it's Trumbo in left, Jackson in center, Cruz in right, Seager at third, Marte at short, Robinson Cano at second, Jesus Montero is at first, Mike Zunino is the catcher. And there's Lloyd McClendon, the youngster, Ketel Marte. The Mariners going to get a good look at that youngster, 21 years old, and leading off and playing shortstop. How about that?
He's anything like that kid in Houston.
I think the Mariners would be very happy if he was anything close to that. Ketel Marte. First pitch to Canha, or second pitch to Canha is at the knees, so the count even at 1-1. Canha hitting .259 with 10 home runs, 46 RBIs, and he's a hot hitter right now. 13 hits in his last 24 at-bats. Coming off a 4 RBI performance last night.
He just swung a slider, not even close to being a strike, but the two-strike approach for Mark Canha has been really unbelievable for a rookie player. We've seen a lot of two-strike hits from Mark Canha, and he recognizes another slider the splitter might be getting here.
We talked about it in our open, Ray, with Iwakuma. Fastballs up, splitters down, and that's how he gets people out.
Especially if the splitter's working, because a high fastball is a little sneaky. But then the splitter, if it is down, Mike Zunino, excellent catcher for the Mariners. He does a good job blocking balls in the dirt. So splitters, if they're thrown correctly, he will be very busy tonight. Now he's going after the high fastball.
So he goes upstairs, and it leads you to believe that the next pitch will be down. Not a bad way to pitch. But he's got a lot going on. Fastball, splitter, slider, curve, cutter. Curve a little bit. The cutter, not much. 2-2 pitch. And there it is. And he gets Canha swinging. So 2 outs. So the big news today surrounding the Oakland A's was Ron Washington is the new third base coach. That's the good news. The bad news is Mike Gallegos was relieved of his duties as the third base coach. So we're happy for Wash, but we're bummed out about Gags because he was a good guy and we wish him the best of luck.
And you can tell by looking at the helmet of Ron Washington, it's brand new. Because Steve Vucinich had to get one that fit Ron Washington. And for Ron Washington, after he left the A's after 11 seasons of coaching third base, infield coach, he went on to manage the Rangers for many years. Never had to wear a helmet.
That's true.
Managing. So he's back at third base.
Reddick rips one to right field, cruises back, reaches up, makes the catch at the warning track on a hard hit ball by Reddick. And Hisashi Iwakuma has a 3-up, 3-down, top of the first inning. Let's check out their lineup. It looks like this. Tom Marte, the young shortstop, will lead it off. Then Seager, Cruz, Cano, Gutierrez, Jackson, Trumbo, Montero, and Zunino. Nelson Cruz having an MVP type season.
Felix Cervant on the mound for the Athletics, and of course coming off a start against the Dodgers, which was his first one on the season, making his 6th start between the Blue Jays and the Athletics, but number 2 for the Athletics, and pitched very well. But as he said, didn't like the 6 walks, and he'd like to reduce that number, as he had 8 strikeouts but 6 walks, and pitched very well in that game. And one thing that's very impressive, his delivery to the plate with a runner on base was much quicker than it seemed like when he was with the Blue Jays.
So here's our first look at the young shortstop Ketel Marte, 21 years old, from the Dominican Republic. Not a real big power hitter. A speed guy.
Nolan McClendon and the staff of the Mariners, before batting practice, he was working on bunting. Kind of a lost art.
And he shoots that one to right field, and the youngster's got a base hit. So leadoff single against Dubron. Defensively for the Athletics, they will line up this way. Crispin left, Burns in center, Reddick in right. Then Valencia, Sogard, Laurie, and Canna around the infield. Stephen Vogt is behind the plate. So here's Kyle Seager. Seager, 259, 17 home runs, 48 runs batted in. A little bit of a down season for Kyle Seager.
And for him, he's hitting better against lefties this year than he is against righties, which is not exactly what the Mariners expected. Give him a long contract for a lot of money. He will be a fixture at third base for many years.
7 years, $100 million extension.
That's a good one.
That is a good one.
Be interesting to see if the Dodgers make a move with his brother, who is a top prospect in the Dodgers organization.
Well, if the Dodgers decided to trade his brother, they could probably get anybody they wanted.
Right. And if they struggle down the stretch, they may decide he was one of the untouchables. And there's the splits, as we talked about, against lefties. 6 home runs, 278, although more home runs against righties, which is expected.
And that one is blasted. Right field, down the line, foul. And not as far as I thought. He must have got it off the end.
Well, it sounded and looked like it was going to be going farther than it actually did, but I agree with you. When it left his bat, I thought the A's were down 2-0 after 2 batters. Pitch was supposed to be outside, and
yep, must have got it off the end.
And that's always dangerous, though, when a pitcher misses a location that badly, and that's what Dubront did with Vogt set up outside.
So 1-1 the count. That one bounced foul.
The acoustics need to be a little bit better here.
They got me. Well, Seager last year had 25 home runs and 96 runs batted in. And that's why I say this year a little bit of a down year because of the 48 RBIs. Home run total is about where he was last year.
Well, he's doing exactly what you should be doing as a third baseman. You want power from that position, and he provided last year, and he's expected to do that throughout his career. And it's the reason he got the contract he got.
He's Gold Glove winner last year as well. And that one is strike 3 called, and that's the first down.
Oh, Manny Gonzalez says he made the call with Stephen Vogt outside. He reached back with a pitch. And I tell you, for an umpire who is on the inside corner, lefty on lefty, and he could see that pitch as well as anybody, and he thought it was a strike, even though Stephen Vogt had to reach back. And
there they are. And Manny Gonzalez. Fieldon Culbreth is the crew chief. He's down at third. So 1 away for Nelson Cruz. Nelson Cruz, the big free agent signing, and he has not disappointed. He is having he's an MVP candidate. I don't know that he's necessarily a front runner, but he'll be a top 3 or 4 guy, I think, when the voting is all said and done at the end of the year. Tied for first in hits, first in total bases, first in slugging, first in homers. And tied for second. He's got a chance to win a batting title, right?
And the most important thing for him, he plays better when he's in the outfield.
Yes, he does.
And that's remarkable because they thought of him more of being a hitter, a DH.
Well, the batting average leaders in the American League, and listen to this: Jason Kipnis, 321. Prince Fielder Nelson Cruz, 320. Eric Hosmer, 317. And there's lots of at-bats to be had yet this year, but
22 runs batted in behind Josh Donaldson, who just went over 100 Saturday. We don't know. I didn't see what he did yesterday, but
1-2 now to Cruz.
Nelson Cruz has 78 on the season, still very impressive. And of course, hit 37 home runs. You'd like to think that you're approaching 100 runs batted in, but it also depends on runners on base in front of him.
Yep. He's tied with Ian Kinsler for the most hits in the American League, 150. He shoots that one into the seats down the right field line. Leads the league in home runs, and there's the hits. Last player to lead the league in both of those categories was Jim Rice in 1978.
And one of the newer members of the Hall of Fame a couple years ago.
And Cruz swings and misses, and that's the second strikeout and the second out here in the first inning.
You know, it's that delivery. Dubront went a little bit quicker out of the stretch and threw a nice breaking ball. But you change your delivery, sometimes it could fool a hitter as much as keep a runner close at first base. And that time Dubront, while looking at first base with Marte, who has not moved since singling on a 2-0 pitch, at least went quickly to both Seager and Cruz and a couple of strikeouts.
Numbers for Robinson Cano: 274, 14 home runs, 56 RBIs. Very slow start this year for Cano, but he's been a lot better the last couple months.
Edgar Martinez, I think, is factored into that. Edgar, the new hitting coach on the Mariners, great designated hitter. There is Edgar. Hey, Edgar's in left field. Now he's on the bench. He doesn't know where to be during the game. Edgar, one of the best at using the whole field, and of course one of the top players for the Mariners over the old King Dome. He could drive the ball. I asked him, he replaced Howard Johnson in June, but I asked him, I said, are you teaching your hitters to put the weighted donut on the end of the bat? And he said Cruz actually does it. And he did that. You talk about trying to swing a bat that's about 32, 33 ounces that he used, then put a weighted donut, which is heavier, use that to get loose. He'd take batting practice with that. But he was strong, used the opposite field so well, and I'm sure teaching that to his players. And Robinson Cano has actually benefited from Edgar being the new hitting coach.
Since July 1st, Cano is batting .331, which is much more normal numbers for him. But it was a tough first couple months for Cano.
And their numbers, runs per game, about a 1 run more with Edgar as a hitting coach.
Well, it has been a strange year for the Mariners. Obviously disappointing. They're 57 and 67, but at the beginning of the year, the offense was struggling, the pitching was decent, and then the second half of the season, it's the exact opposite, where they're scoring more runs, but the pitching has just not been good, and the bullpen is just completely unraveled, and that was maybe the strength of their team last year. So it's kind of hard to figure out how you just flip-flop. Last year he hit .314, 14 homers, 82 RBIs. This year .274. So numbers are down. We'll see how close he gets to the numbers from last year when this year's all over. Ball's hit off of Dubron. Vogt will hold on to it, and boy, that made solid contact. Properusta's going to hustle out. So is Bob Melvin, but you could hear it all the way up here.
Well, with Marte running, this ball probably was going to be hit to shortstop. He got the right foot. Looked like the inside of the right foot of DeBron as he followed through, and you could hear it, the solid sound off the foot of DeBron, and carrying over to the first base line. No chance to get Cano. Cano down to his knees, but let's hope he got a lot of shoe, or maybe a lot of the shoe sole, but it sounded like a huge thud, which is not good. Right foot for DeBron would be the landing foot. Either one doesn't matter. Push off to the left and land to the right. He didn't even know it was a base hit. That's how out of it he was after the ball hit off his foot. I must say, yesterday in Oakland, Kendall Graveman making the start. Came out after 6 innings, and I'll be honest, at the time it looked like maybe he landed awkwardly with a ball that Brady Sizemore hit up the middle, but unbeknownst to us before the game, he was dealing with a rib injury.
Sure.
Which he was placed on the disabled list. Max Muncy called up from AAA, but he was dealing with it even before the game, and didn't tell anybody. Stephen Vogt said afterward that he had the problem, so we wish Kendall Graveman the best. And good young pitcher, of course. Jesse Hahn with the right forearm tightness. He is still yet to throw. He's going to start a throwing program, he said, this week, just to see how he feels, but more likely will not be back.
And this is game number 126 for the A's, so you wonder if you'll see Graveman again this year. The oblique strain, you just never know. Double steal. They'll throw through to second base, not in time. So Marte is safe at third. Cano beats the throw to second.
Well, from the young man's standpoint, Marte, talk about a good time to run. Felix Ron really thinking more about his own foot, and nobody holding him a second. Ron didn't even look, and so Stephen Vogt pre-planned to throw to second base, but Robertson Cano, did he come off the bag? He's kept the tag. He's off the bag, and Bob Melvin, yeah, they're going to look at it. They're going to take a look at it, and that's a great call, Delaire, and for Bob Melvin. They're going to take a look because the one thing.
I'm sorry.
No. The one thing we've seen, the infielders hold the tag.
And I think Cano knows he came off the bag.
Yeah.
I think he does, because he kind of picked up some dirt and flipped it to the side, and I think he knows that there was just a short moment where he came off, and Laurie doing what you're supposed to do.
And you know what, Kai? Whenever you have a double steal like that, the runner going to second base, he is going to slide late, because he knows that they're probably going to throw to second base. So Cano, by sliding as late as he did, it forced him with the feet first slide to hit the bag and pop up, which means
he lost his balance a little bit.
Exactly. And you know, we saw in Texas. Remember when Elvis Andrus lifted, runner up, and they called him out. So if Laurie helped push Cano off the bag, you know, that's something that just a follow through, and
Laurie knew it.
Yeah.
So I'll be surprised if this doesn't get overturned, because it looked pretty clear that Cano, just for a second, after the slide was complete, he just kind of lost his balance and the foot just came off.
And you'd like to hope the umpires in New York who are doing the reviewing, the challenges, right there, he's off.
Right there.
Yep. And Laurie did not remove the tag at all. But they have to know, they being whoever's in New York, they have to know that infielders are holding the tags, and umpires really are not making the call until the slide is complete. Although at second base, Paul Schreiber made the tag, or made the call. And the scary thing about this is Schreiber was shaking his head as Laurie looked at him, indicating that he was off the bag. And if in New York they say call is as stands,
well, I know what our replay showed.
Yeah.
And if this doesn't get overturned, something's wrong.
Yeah. Well, watch the slide by Cano. Hit the bag, jumped up, momentum, carried him, and his foot's clearly off the bag.
His right foot came off, and then the left one came on. And he is out. And that's a good call.
Yes, it is.
So Cano, the slide, his foot came off. Laurie kept the tag on, and a nice job by Brett Laurie. And the inning comes to an end. So the call is indeed overturned. No score after one. Top of the second, no score from Seattle. Felix Dubron had that ball hit off his right foot. So checking on him. In fact, they're looking at the top of the foot, right by the big toe.
Well, the way it sounded, you can only hope it's a lot of shoe, but it looked like it's more foot than shoe.
We need a lot of leather and not a lot of flesh is what you need.
Yeah.
So let's hope Dubron is okay. As we showed you last half inning, Kendall Graveman's been placed on the disabled list. Oh, 2 to Danny Valencia. He'll be followed by Vogt and Laurie here in the second inning against Sashi Iwakuma. Fastball up high and a swing and a miss on the foul tip. So 1 out.
Fans, you can look like Sonny Gray and Eric Sogard with your very own Striped Socks backpack presented by Chevron Techron Advantage Credit Card on Monday, September the 7th. 15,000 fans will receive the stylish backpack, and it is stylish, modeled after the preferred footwear of Sonny and Sogi. Get your Labor Day tickets now at athletics.com/tickets, or you can call 877-493-BALL. I can't wait to see that. Almost looks like a beanie on top, right? With the socks and then so you can wear it. No, you can't wear it, but
seems like we've been promoting that thing for a long time. When is it?
September 7th. Be Labor Day. And this is the 24th, so
man, be here before you know it.
I hope so.
Long homestand. These will be here in Seattle till Wednesday, after the day game on Wednesday, an off day in Arizona, and then the Diamondbacks Friday, Saturday, Sunday down in Phoenix. Stephen Vogt swing and miss, and a count of 2-1. So day game on Wednesday, and then the off day in a hot Arizona Diamondbacks team, and then the A's will go home to play the Angels and these Mariners. There's another team on that. Home
Houston.
Houston, that's right.
That's the 7th. That's it. See, they could have expanded the schedule for 3 weeks to show Labor Day.
So it'll be a 9-game homestand. 2-2 to Stephen Vogt. Hits that one to left, shallow. Trumbo got a good jump, and he makes the catch. So Trumbo playing left field tonight.
Stephen Vogt just tried to go inside out on a fastball down and in, missed the target, so he no outside again. And Stephen Vogt, though, tried to stay inside, which did a good job. But Mark Trumbo, who has played a lot of different positions with the Angels, playing third, first, DHing, and in left field. I think the Mariners trying to see where they can fit him in into the lineup defensively. He has a power right-handed bat.
Laurie hitting .270, 11 home runs, 47 RBIs. He had a good series against the Rays, 6 for 12 with a couple of doubles. And he went. Manny Gonzalez points at Laurie, saying, "You went around."
Iwakuma using the slider a little bit more tonight, maybe, and especially the right-handers. I think with the left-handed hitters, a split finger fastball is good. Against the Orioles, he used the fastball and the splitter, as we showed in our open. He also threw some sliders, but kind of mix it up a little bit. As you had mentioned, the A's have not seen the Mariners in a while.
Oh.
But we'll see them quite a bit between now and the end of the season. Final weekend will be right here at Safeco.
And the A's and the Mariners have 9 games left against each other, 3 series, including that season ender.
Well, playing for the cellar, man. You know, that's right. You got to get out of the cellar.
Could come down to that final weekend.
That's right.
The A's have struggled against the Mariners this year, 3-7. And the last time the A's were here, it was May 8th, 9th, and 10th, and they got swept in a 3-game series. So it has been a while since we've been up to this fine city of Seattle.
And for the A's and Bob Melvin, it seems like it's tough to score runs here at Safeco Field. It's a big ballpark. They have moved the fences in a little bit from left field. But the bullpen of the Mariners, and if they had the same bullpen as they had last year, might be a whole different story for the Elms in this 2015 season.
Well, when we get later in the game, we'll go over that, and it's completely different. Different names. I mean, there's still a couple guys down there, but wholesale changes in the Seattle bullpen. On the ground in the hole, scooped up by Marte. His throw across the diamond pulls Montero off the bat, so it'll be a hit for Laurie.
Well, they say sometimes, and of course, Iwakuma's already pitched a no-hitter. This is the first hit, and they say it needs to be clean. Well, Marte trying to make it an out, or at least a possibility of an out, be it by hurrying. He knows that there's one guy that's going to run hard on this ball club, and that is the guy who just crossed first base, and that is Brett Laurie. Marte trying to make a spectacular play. I believe that whenever a pitcher pitches a no-hitter, the defense behind him in games to follow will say, until he gives up a hit, we're going to bust it. We're going to try hard. Not that they don't anyway, but see Trumbo charging on Vogt's ball, Marte trying to make that play.
First pitch to Billy Butler is in for a strike.
I think every time Noah Ryan took the mound, that those guys didn't think he's got a chance again. I mean, to pitch 7.
A lot of that right there is Brett Laurie and him hustling down the line. And he is very fast. 234 the average for Butler, 9 home runs, 48 RBIs. He was 1 for 6 in the series against Tampa Bay over the weekend.
Some guys are fast, some guys run hard but aren't fast.
Exactly right. Laurie does both.
Exactly.
Past Ron Washington. It's got to feel a little strange for Wash, though. I mean, it's been a long time since he's been in the third base coaching box. He was there for a long time, but then he was the manager in Texas for what, 6.5 years?
Yeah. And he was waiting for Brett Laurie to look over to him before he gave a sign, and kind of pointed to him. Brett having a nice conversation with Montero at first base.
Butler swings and misses. Foul tip. Side retired. 3 strikeouts for Iwakuma in the first 2 innings. Bottom of the second coming up. It'll be Gutierrez, Jackson, and Trumbo. No score. Transylvania 2. It's in theaters September 25th. Beautiful look at downtown Seattle. Safeco Field to the right of that shot. Kind of on the south end of downtown Seattle.
And the good thing about that shot, not as much smoke. A lot of fires up in the northwest, and we hope they are being contained quickly. A lot of smoke as we were flying in from Oakland last night.
I was talking to Randy Adamak, vice president of the Seattle Mariners, before the game, and he was talking about the smoke. And I guess the fires are east of here, but for quite a period of time the winds were blowing that smoke this way, and it was very visible.
Yeah, they had a picture in the paper which was scary,
and you could smell it too.
Yeah, oh, definitely.
Not a good smell. Well, we hope everything's okay.
I'm talking to Rick Riz, and similar to what Randy Adamak was talking about, but it's like in California, the drought, no rain. He said they haven't had any up here, and this place usually is very wet. Matter of fact, they had the Kingdome, and they have the roof here at Safeco Field, the kind of the carport, because of the weather that usually, of course, here will permit the games to continue, keep the rain out, but they just have not had rain.
And Dubron strikes out Gutierrez, but then limps off the mound, and he's struggling a little bit right now. There's the dimensions, old and new. So the left field alley was brought in 12 feet. Again, that was after the 2012 season. The right field alley was brought in 4 feet. That left field area was where it was really, really deep. It's still a big ballpark, maybe a little bit more fair now, but still more of a pitcher's park. Watch Dubron after he strikes out Gutierrez.
That's the landing foot, and that's if it's on the foot itself, the top of it, which he indicated while he was sitting on the bench, that every time he lands, he's going to feel it.
Yeah, and he is feeling it.
Well, the A's picked him up, as we mentioned, the deadline, the waivers. I mean, all those things that you get a chance to pitch. You want to pitch, and you don't want an injury, but you also don't want the injury to affect the way you do pitch, and might affect a shoulder or an elbow. Closely watching the manager and the pitching coach.
So 3-2 the count to Austin Jackson.
Now this Robinson Cano with a line drive as he followed through, got him on the right foot, and then went down, and the ball going near the foul line. Stephen Vogt did not make the throw.
Well, and it's not one of those things where it's going to loosen up a little bit as the game goes on.
No, it's just the opposite. You're right.
It's a line drive right field and a base hit. Austin Jackson goes the other way. That's the third hit in the game for Seattle.
That was a breaking ball, nicely going to right field, was Austin Jackson, who throughout his career has been a strikeout victim a lot between the Yankees, the Tigers, Mariners. And a nice swing going opposite field. If he can do that a lot, he's not going to strike out as much. And he has a lot of speed, cover the outfield and center field.
So here's Trumbo. The first pitch to Trumbo, high fastball, he fouls it straight back. 16 home runs combined with the D-backs and the Mariners. It was June 3rd when he came over in the trade from Arizona and helped the Mariners offense.
Another right-handed bat they got. Nelson Cruz signed him in the offseason. Mark Trumbo with the Angels, then to the Diamondbacks. Grew up in the Anaheim area. Probably shocked as anyone to be traded from his hometown.
play Trumbo to pull. Looks like he got jammed, but is strong enough to drop it into left field for a hit. So back-to-back singles, 2 on 1 out, and it'll be Jesus Montero.
You're right. Inside was the pitch, but he is strong. Once he got it over the infielder's head in left field, it's going to be a base hit.
So Vogt visits with Dubront, checking in, make sure he's okay. As he faces Jesus Montero. Montero back in the big leagues. Trying to stick this time.
Not as a catcher either.
Nope.
Zunino and Sucre, the catcher, is now Montero from the Yankees, and big part of the trade that he's going to be a superstar here. That's the reason the Mariners won him, but he did not pan out.
Well, he had a decent year his first year. That was 2012, and he played pretty much every day. He hit .260, had 15 home runs, 62 RBIs, so not bad for your first full year in the big leagues. But he has really struggled ever since then. Put on a lot of weight.
Yeah, he wasn't a very good catcher either.
Nope,
that's
struggling behind the plate.
I think that's what was the biggest culprit. When you get a catcher, you want him to do the job behind the plate, not first base, where they can utilize his power.
He has lost quite a bit of weight. He's still only 25 years old, so there's still a future there if he can put it all together. Big, strong, right-handed hitter. He had a terrific season in AAA. He hit .346 with 16 home runs in 93 games. So if you're the Mariners, you're 10 games under 500. It's a disappointing season. At some point, I think you got to find out if Jesus Montero is an everyday big league player.
Austin Jackson is a threat to steal, and that's why Dubront has had the inside move a couple of times. Laurie not really holding him at second base.
Now 1-1 as Montero swings through the fastball. Mike Zunino will be next. Montero drives one down the right field line. Reddick on the move, and Reddick makes the catch. Jackson tags. He's going to try for third, and he'll make it. Slide.
So I take the out. Nice play by Josh Reddick, and Austin Jackson tagging all the way, and Reddick tried to catch and throw as quickly as possible, but most important thing, to get to the ball to catch it. And then knowing that Jackson with the speed was going to be tagging in the way, so to make a good throw, kept it down, hit the cutoff man. So got a fake, but that's it. They ruled that fair or foul.
I didn't see the umpire.
I didn't either. It looked like he was just in foul territory, but it's where the ball is in the air. The way Jackson was tagging, I almost think it's foul that he was going to tag, knowing that that's all he had to do or could do.
So here's the 9th place hitter, Zunino. Tough year offensively for Zunino, just a 176 batting average. Does have 11 home runs. That's high, and now it's 2-0. Zunino has struck out 128 times in 341 at bats.
I think his manager Lloyd McClendon, who many years ago was a catcher, maybe appreciates the fact that Mike Zunino does the work behind the plate and does a good job handling the pitching staff, and forego some of the offensive parts of his game. The power, though, has always been there.
And he's still a young catcher.
Yes, he is.
I think when it's all said and done, he'll turn out to be a pretty decent hitter.
You know, some say that maybe he was rushed a little bit too quickly to the big leagues, but he's never failed catching, and that's what you want in a catcher to do the job. He's done a very good job for Lloyd McClendon.
So 3-1 the count. Jackson at third, Trumbo at first.
And you have to watch this pitch, the 3-1, because with the power that Zunino has, probably going to give him a pretty good pitch to hit.
Zunino had a good swing. It's hit high and foul into the upper deck. So full count now, and Trumbo will take off. Canna will play behind him. Outfield plays Zunino pretty well straight up, as does the infield. The 3-2 pitch is hit high in the air again, just about the same spot. In fact, I think it was the exact same spot.
Same guy get it?
Yes, he did. No, I'm just joking.
Name Chang. Foul ball alley, right side.
That's right. Vogt called timeout. Pitch number 40 coming up from Dubron. Inside corner, strike 3 called. So Dubron limps off the mound. He gets out of the jam. Strand a pair, and we're going to the third. No score.
When the A's take on the Seattle Mariners, these Seattle Mariners, Oktoberfest style beers will be available throughout the ballpark. Fans can enjoy German themed entertainment and food. Lots of music too. For tickets, visit athletics.com/Oktoberfest.
Coco Chris to lead it off here in the third. He'll be followed by Sogard and then Burns. Iwakuma has got 3 strikeouts in the first 2 innings. He's allowed just 1 hit. Swing, miss. So quick 0-2 to Coco. Shallow center. Jackson is there, and that's the first down. This was in between innings. Felix Dubron putting the sweatshirt on. And by the looks of it, and the fact that there's somebody warming up in the A's bullpen, I think Felix Dubron is done for the night. Evan Scribner is throwing out in the bullpen. So that should tell you the story right there. So that's too bad. Felix Dubron making his second start with the A's, but the ball hit off his foot by Cano, and he's going to be done. And most important, let's hope he's okay.
You know, the most important thing, I think, whenever a pitcher, either the push-off foot or the landing foot, if you land awkwardly, how's that affecting the other parts of your body, like your arm? And I'm sure there's just as much concern about that for him, training staff, manager, that you don't want other parts of the body affected. Bob Melvin, not surprising that made the decision, goes to the bullpen early. Not something you want to see happen, have to go to the bullpen this early in the game. It was Dubron who came in Toronto in the second inning, in relief of Aaron Brooks. Pitched so well that got his spot in the rotation, and now he gets hit tonight.
One-two pitch is popped up toward the seats, and it's on top of the A's dugout and then into the seats. So the count remains 1-2 to Sogard, who's hitting .244 with 26 RBIs. The canopy is open tonight here at Safeco Field. At the knee, strike 3 called, and Sogard thought it was low.
I don't know about that one. Zunino did a good job of bringing the ball up in the strike zone. That should be where it crosses the plate, and this definitely looked low as it approached the plate.
He pulled it up about a foot. Watch how far he lifts it up.
See, an umpire should never look at that. He should see the ball crossing the plate, but sometimes when the delay call is made, it's as if the umpire did look at the catcher doing that. Zunino, I mean, give him credit. That's called framing, and there's a big statistic on that right now for catchers being able to keep the ball, frame the ball in the strike zone.
That almost looked, and granted, it worked, but it almost looked like an overframe. Right?
Yeah, a foot? Yeah. A couple inches, good.
But you're right, it worked. That's all that matters. There's that split finger from Iwakuma. It's a good pitch if he's got it working. Watch this one dive down.
Remember, the Mariners had a catcher by the name of Kenji Jojima who took everything out of the strike zone and flattened it on the ground, kind of trapped it on the ground, took a lot of strikes away from the pitchers.
Seager quickly throws. Got him. Nice play by Seager, and it's a 3-up, 3-down inning for Iwakuma. Bottom of the third coming up. It'll be the top of the order for Seattle. Will celebrate their 17th annual Breast Cancer Awareness Day presented by Zevia, the zero-calorie soda, and supported in part by Athena Bottled Water, Nelson Staffing, Comerica Bank, and State Roofing Systems of San Leandro. Prior to the game, 10,000 fans will receive a breast cancer awareness scarf courtesy of Zevia. To join the fight, purchase your special tickets now at athletics.com/survivor. No score, bottom of the third inning from Seattle. When it's time for change, think Speedy Oil Change and Tune-Up, your oil change, tune-up, and smog experts. So Evan Scribner comes in as Dubron, done after 2 innings. After being hit in the foot. So it's going to be a lot of bullpen tonight for the Athletics. So Dubron gave up 4 hits and no runs. He had 4 strikeouts. He was able to go back out there and pitch the second inning. But he was also limping, and this is how the injury occurred.
Right foot, he went down, ball towards first base, and with Laurie covering second, the ball might have been right to him, instead off the foot, unfortunately, of Dubron. And after pitching the second inning, discussion in the dugout, and Evan Scribner was informed he would be pitching the third inning, and that's where he is now. I remember in New York when Scott Kazmir pitched, left after about 3 innings, had to come out of the game quickly. I asked Evan Scribner in that game. Remember, he came in and gave up a home run. I mean, he was just lit up. And I said, when did you find out? He said 1 out in the next inning. And so he had to hurry, came in. At least this time he had a full half inning, which a reliever, that's all he needs.
Sure.
Needs about a full half inning while the team is hitting to get ready, and he did not take any extras. He actually, Bob Melvin could have allowed Dubron to go out, and then Scribner would have had as much time as possible or needed. But because he did loosen up, had the full half inning, he's ready to go.
Good pitch there to Marte, 1-2. Ketel Marte had a base hit in the first inning. He's a switch hitter. So that base hit came batting right-handed. First look at him left-handed, and he rips one toward the gap. And he's going to hit the bag at first. He's going to head for second, and he's going to make it with a stand-up double. So a single and a double for Ketel Marte, the rookie shortstop.
Too good of a pitch with 2 strikes right down the middle. Scribner knew it. Location, especially with 2 strikes. You hope to make a better pitch to get the out. Marte thinking, too, as soon as he hit it towards that triples alley in right center here. And young man looks like he can play. That kind of speed, he's thinking 3 maybe.
Six doubles already. Playing in just his 21st game. So an opportunity for the Mariners is now they have their big hitters coming up: Seager, Cruz, and Cano.
And also the A's go from a lefty to a righty, which means Seager, even though his number is pretty good against lefties, is facing a righty. Cruz, it doesn't matter. Cano, it doesn't matter.
Seager was called out on strikes in the first inning. Curveball hit down the right field line and deep, and foul.
2 for 2. This one much closer. Better contact this time.
Yep.
And just hooked in front of the foul pole. Barely. 326 mark. And Evan Scribner said, my luck has changed. Because he's given up a few, but that one went foul, and maybe that will be a great start for him.
So the count 0-2. Sogard playing right behind Marte at second base. Two pitches hit high in the air, and into the seats. A's with 7 relievers. 3 lefties, 3 righties, and of course Venditti. See how many pitches that Scribner can give the A's. Runner goes. Throw to third is not in time. Throw was just a bit in the dirt. Valencia could not pick it. And I think Marte was going to have it beat no matter what. His second stolen base. Second time he has stolen third tonight.
And again, there's nobody playing close to him, even though Sogard is behind him, but he's on the outfield grass. And that's smart base running to be able to see that kind or what they're doing against you defensively and to take the gamble to get in the feet first slide. Infield will stay back except the corners.
Pitch. Very close. Ray, check out this slide, and this is really the way you do it. Stick that first leg out, and then you don't bounce over the bag.
That's right.
And I know it sounds simple, but you do not see a lot of guys slide like that, and that's really the exact way to do it.
And you know what that will also do to the infielder? Make him think twice about putting his foot down or his leg down because of the feet first slide. Those spikes are sharp.
But get that front leg stretched out and make sure it hits the bag, and then you stay right there. Ichiro, great slide.
That's right. And Cano did just the opposite and was called out.
Curveball, and he got him swinging. Big out.
That's a great point. We talk about the pop-up slide. About a 3-2 curveball, unexpected 3-2 curveball as far as Seager was concerned. It was a strike, and he swung and missed. Had no clue that he's going to get the 3-2 curveball. He did, and a great pitch by A's right-hander Scribner, and now the infield will come in.
And it'll be Cruz who struck out in the first. Cruz was 78 RBIs, 7th best in the league, and he swings and misses at a fastball. Well, so he's not been great in these spots.
I was going to say that's not good for an RBI man, a producer. And see how he does in this at bat. But if you've driven in that few, that just talks about the offense of the Mariners and how difficult it's been for them to score runs.
And that hit Cruz. Hit him in the back arm.
Rick Griffin, longtime trainer for the Mariners, out to take a look at him in the right arm. Had the protection on the left elbow. Got him in the back arm as he has that exaggerated open stance and then closes. But that with the back arm, the right arm, no stride. Trying to get out of the way. Ball found him. The A's can get their ground ball to second for a 4-6-3 double play. Came close to the elbow bone.
Yes, it did.
And the inside. Rick Griffin taking a look just to see the flexibility.
He may have got a little elbow.
Yeah.
Looked like it was more up in the bicep area, but for him to be in some pain, it may have clipped that elbow a little bit. Seems to be okay.
Right elbow as the ball got underneath the left, and you're right, got him maybe just above the elbow, but enough that had to feel it.
So runners at the corners for Cano. Cano had that hit off Dubront in the first inning. First pitch to Cano is there's that low strike. Manny Gonzalez, whether you think it's a strike or not, he has been calling it tonight so far. It looks like it's a little low, but in this case, Scribner will take it.
Makes you wonder why the one wasn't called on Seager, because it was higher than that. It had to be off the plate, I guess. A's will play for two. Lowry and Sogard doing a lot of talking at second base, because you have a third baseman playing at second, you have a second baseman playing at shortstop, so a lot of conversation between the two, especially with this important at bat by Cano. If they can get a double play ground ball, it would be a great way to get out of the inning.
Outside again. Scribner staying away from Cano. 2-1 the count. Double stolen base strikeout hit by pitch so far here in the bottom of the third. Curve, and it's fouled off of Stephen Vogt. Scribner with a big overhand curve.
Hi, boy, Steven. Curveball, good pitch. Top of the knee. See, if you go down to one knee, that's what happens right there. Check the left quad. Saw Steven after the game yesterday. He was beaten up. All kinds of ice bags.
2-2 pitch, a fastball, and Cano had a very good swing. But he fouled it back, and Scribner's got another shot.
He's got to be thinking about the curveball. Scribner with a very good 12-6 curveball. He struck out Seager with it. He's throwing a cutter more to the right-handers. One fastball in.
Outfield shaded toward left center for Cano. And he lines one toward Burns, and it's going to drop in front. Marte trots in to score, and Robinson Cano with a line drive RBI single, and the Mariners have a 1-0 lead.
Hit very hard by Cano, but maybe not exactly where Scribner wanted it. Almost on the 2-2, you want to just throw it in off the plate, see if you can get a swing and miss, or the ground boy did not offer it. A couple of fastballs outside, did not roll over on them, and stayed inside the ball, which he does very well.
So Cano gets his 57th RBI, and here's Franklin Gutierrez. Gutierrez struck out swinging in the second inning. Pitch down and away. We saw Nelson Cruz at second base. I don't think Scribner looked back. Nelson Cruz could have stole third. He danced off, and in all honesty, he was about a quarter of the way to third base, and he didn't go.
See what he's saying to Cano there. He's asking him about his left hamstring, and he said, "Are you good to run? Because I might."
Sure. And
of course, Stephen Vogt also would probably throw through to second, as he did. Cano was the one who was called out in the first inning on the appeal or the challenge.
Cano and Cruz both with big leads. That one's hit high in the air to center. Burns going back. Long home run for Franklin Gutierrez, and the Mariners lead 4-0.
That might be a case right there of what Nelson Cruz was doing at second base, just enough to distract Evan Scribner. They threw him a fastball that he crushed. Probably not the location he wanted. Gutierrez mostly hitting well against lefties, but showed that the right-hander, he could take him also. Ricky Henderson, one of the best at dancing at second base, distracting a pitcher. And maybe there was just enough by Cruz in that situation.
Well, he was indeed dancing around. Whether he was going to go or not, I don't know. So 0-2 to Austin Jackson.
See him at second, and then all of a sudden, right down the middle.
Well, this ball was hit a long way. That's a big part of the ballpark, and it was 4 or 5 rows deep in those seats out there. Sogard has it, throws in time, and that's out number 2. The Mariners people will tell you that Franklin Gutierrez has looked pretty good. He was a pretty good player about 4 or 5 years ago, but injuries have just completely taken him out of the mix for a while. But getting a chance again here in Seattle, and he's got 8 home runs now.
He had a stomach problem that could never figure out what was wrong.
And I always liked him. I thought he was a good player, good center fielder.
Yeah.
He'd play for a couple weeks and then he'd get hurt.
Signed a good contract, good long-term contract, and just really never was able to play out the contract. And then once he got through it, figured out what was wrong with him, everything seemed to be good.
That one is belted to left, toward the line, toward the seats, and gone. Another long home run. This time it's Trumbo, and it's 5-0 Seattle.
A fastball to right center and a hanging curveball to left field. And there's the hanger, there's the swing, and there's the power. He just did not. You hate to see this with Evan Scribner because he's gotten a chance to pitch, but boy, the long ball has really hurt him all season.
There's Montero who pops a foul back. He's now allowed 14 home runs this year. And he's done that in 57 innings. Strike call to Jesus Montero. 0-2. Montero hit a fly ball to right field in the second inning. Curve and a swing and miss by Montero, but damage done by the Seattle Mariners. A Cano RBI single, a Gutierrez 3-run homer, a Trumbo solo home run. 5-0 Mariners after 3. Casino Matrix, Silicon Valley's premier 24/7 entertainment destination. 5-0. The Mariners lead. All 5 runs coming in the bottom of the 3rd inning. Trumbo had a home run. Gutierrez had a home run. So a lot of work to do for the A's against a good pitcher, Hisashi Iwakuma, who has allowed just 1 hit through the first 3 innings. Shutdown inning opportunity for Iwakuma. Iwakuma is now 34 years old, Ray. And interesting, he's going to be a free agent. I'm saying right now that he stays with the Mariners.
That's right. I agree. Unless he followed Ichiro to Miami.
Yeah.
I don't think so. I agree with you. But a lot of the Japanese-born players have signed with the Mariners. Ichiro, the main one. But Mariners have given Iwakuma a chance, and with the injuries, he's able to continue to pitch. And everybody's always looking for pitching, and they have one pretty good one in Iwakuma, especially when he's healthy.
0-2 to Canna, who struck out in the first inning. That one hit well to right field. Cruz going back. He's going to have enough room, and he makes the catch.
I was thinking about when Reddick hit the line drive in the first inning. Cruz caught that one as he just caught this one. Cruz had played that deep against the Cardinals in the World Series. The Rangers have been world champions. Freeze hit the ball over his head. He's been good in August. Those are the numbers for Iwakuma in this month. Everything has been good for him. Health probably plays a big part of that.
Facing Reddick. Well, this is Iwakuma's 4th year here after 11 years in Japan, and his record with the Mariners is 43-22. That's pretty darn good. He was 15-9 last year. He was 14-6 in 2013. So he's pretty good. He would slot into anybody's rotation. Cano scoops it up a couple steps to his left. Another hard hit ball for Reddick, but he's got nothing to show for it.
Robinson Cano has always been very smooth at second base, and this one, a hard hit ball, just very casually reaches down and snags it off of the grass, and easy throw. Plays like he has fun.
Yep.
Robinson Cano, just from New York to Seattle.
So with 2 outs, Valencia hits. Valencia pulled off that one, and it's 0-1.
The Mariners, their biggest signing from Japan, Ichiro, of course, but they also had Sasaki, the closer.
He was good.
Kenji Jojima, the catcher.
Scooped up by Marte. Flips it across, and another 3-up, 3-down inning. And that's 7 in a row retired by Iwakuma. Bottom of the 4th coming up, 5-0 Mariners. Voted as CSNCA Data Strong fan, and you just might see yourself in an upcoming broadcast. It's brought to you by T-Mobile. Luis Elvira Jr. We appreciate the photo. Keep sending in those pictures. So as usual, when we come up to Seattle, we always see a lot of A's fans. It would be a good trip to take. If you're an A's fan and you haven't come up to Seattle, you should. Short flight, nice weather,
did you see
ballpark.
Did you see that nice shot on the, is that a ferry, ship, whatever, with the Space Needle behind it? I mean, that's the photo.
That's why you should come up here.
Wow, that was beautiful.
Nice walk around city. So bottom of the fourth inning, and Mike Zunino to lead it off. He takes a bit outside. Scribner's second inning of work. The Mariners were hoping to build off the 87 win season last year. They went 87 and 75. Remember, they finished one game behind the A's for that second wild card. Took them right down to the last day. And what I'll always remember a lot of things about last year, because it was a fun year, but sitting in the clubhouse in Texas after the A's lost and watching the Mariners game, and we did it 2 nights in a row, if I remember correctly. A's needed the Mariners to lose, and they didn't. So the A's had to go down to their final game, and they had a win on that Sunday.
Right.
And they did. But we sat in that clubhouse and watched the Mariners, and I think it was the Saturday night they went into extra innings, and they finally won in about the 12th inning. We were hoping they would lose because we wanted to celebrate.
Yeah, the bad part about that, it was, well, the bad part for Friday, Saturday, the good part for Sunday was the fact that 2 hours ahead.
That's true.
And so it was a late night Saturday, but on Sunday the A's got to post the win, and there was a shot of Felix Hernandez walking off the mound.
That's right.
Because they couldn't win. The A's clinched the second wild card, and the Mariners had their best pitcher pitching on the Sunday.
That's right. The A's would have had to have lost. The Mariners would have won, and then they would have been tied for the second wild card.
Right.
So
exactly.
it was kind of a crazy final weekend.
Good fastball to Zunino, and Evan Scribner maybe throwing a little frustration here. But this place was jamming that final day of the season last year, and all the more reason you think about some of the offseason acquisitions, even during the season. What Nelson Cruz would have meant to the club last year with a very good bullpen.
So they had a 16-game improvement in the win column from 2013 to 2014. So it was a very exciting year for the Mariners last year, and you're right, that's what makes this year probably even more disappointing. They're 10 games under 500, and that one into right field, and another hit from Marte, and he's going to try for second. Reddick's throw is there, and he's out.
He doesn't know much about Josh Reddick yet, does he? Josh Matadikti, as if to say, I'm out here, I can throw. But good hustle by Marte. He got the curveball, 2 strikes, and hit it relatively slowly into right field. And with his speed, he's also got an easy double. It's stolen third base. And you could almost see that he was going to go, and Josh Reddick, bare hand and a perfect throw. Derek Sogard in plenty of time. With the feet first slide again, watch Sogard at second base. Unlike the guys with the head first slide, Sogi put the glove down and got the tag. Man, it is different if a guy slides feet first versus head first.
Valencia into foul territory. He grabs it. Side retired. So great throw by Reddick. Throws out the youngster trying to stretch a single into a double. 5-0 after 4.
One app for live baseball. At Bat is up to the moment, at any moment, with in-game highlights, live look-ins, replay reviews, radio broadcast, statcast, and more. Get MLB.com at Bat for your smartphone or your tablet.
Fifth inning, Iwakuma's been good. 4 strikeouts and 1 hit allowed through 4 innings. First pitch to Vogt in for a strike. So Iwakuma with a 5-0 lead, and good stuff tonight. He can pound the strike zone.
Doesn't hurt to have a 5-run lead, which pitched well and then got 5 runs in the 3rd inning.
Iwakuma's only walked 13 batters in 83 innings this year. Opposing hitters leading off an inning, a 128 average. Injuries got him, though. He made 3 starts this year and then went on the disabled list for 2.5 months with a lat strain. And now he's been back. But 2.5 months, it's a long time. 1-2 pitch is hit to shallow left. Trumbo on the move, and Trumbo is going to have it bounce off his body, roll to the side wall, and Vogt will have a double. Trumbo kind of went into a slide, but he went into a slide very late. The slide came after the ball hit the ground.
And really should have played it into a base hit instead of trying to make the play and turning it into a double. Stephen Vogt hustling, rounded first, and once, you're right, once he went into the slide and the ball kicked up, hit him right below the lips on the chin, and it hit him softly. Might not have gone as far, but
a little blood going.
Yes, he does. Wow.
So it's a double, and here's Laurie. Laurie takes a pitch on the outside corner for a strike. Laurie had an infield hit that was with 2 outs in the 2nd inning. Hit a ball in the hole that Marte fielded, but his throw was late. Butler to follow. Should be out of play, and it will be out of play.
Just gave those notes about Iwakuma, first batter faced. Very good batting average against. A little over 100, and retired the 4 tonight. But Stephen Vogt with a bloop double to start this 5th inning.
Up and in with a fastball. So you see Iwakuma goes upstairs and probably come back with something low. Edward Mahika is getting ready in that A's bullpen. On the ground, right to the shortstop. Marte scoops it up, fires just in time to get the hustling Laurie. So 1 out, and Vogt stays at second base.
Looks like the young man wants to show off his arm too, doesn't he?
Yeah.
He's got a good one. Cano might have been telling him, you know, get rid of the ball a little quicker so you don't have to throw it so hard right at the end. Got a pretty good double play partner to help him along. Cano, the veteran, Marte, the rookie.
Yeah, you probably would listen to Robinson Cano. That would be a good idea. First pitch to Butler, in for a strike. Quite a ball game tonight at Yankee Stadium. The Yankees and the Astros opening up a 3-game series. And the Yankees got a sacrifice fly by Carlos Beltran in the bottom of the 9th inning and won 1-0. So it had a little playoff atmosphere feel to it in the Bronx tonight. Eovaldi and Feldman, the 2 starting pitchers, both went 8 innings. But when it was all said and done, the sacrifice fly won it for the Yankees. And with the Blue Jays being off today, the Yankees and Blue Jays are now tied for first place. Yankees get their 69th win.
Think how great it is for the Astros trying to make this a real special season, but to go into New York in late August and play in that atmosphere. You know, the crowds were big, are going to be big against the Astros. The Yankees are going to draw very well anyway, regardless of who they play.
Butler takes outside. Royals beat the Orioles 8-3. 7-run 6th inning for Kansas City. So the Orioles all of a sudden are struggling. They have lost 5 in a row. That's the first of a 4-game series for the Orioles and the Royals. A little high, 3-1.
Manny doesn't like the high strike. He likes the ankle high strike. Looked like a pretty good pitch. If Butler had swung, he might have hit it out.
So 3-1, Butler in a hitter's count with Coco to follow. Butler swings and misses. You know, we saw the Orioles, and of course they played great against the A's. Here's that 3-1 pitch. Vogt had the leadoff double. He's trying to get him home. Butler lays off, and it's a walk.
Well, if he had gone through with that swing, woof, that would not have been good. That was way out of the strike zone.
So first walk by Iwakuma, and that'll bring up Coco Crisp. And Zunino will visit. But the Orioles, Ray, we saw them, and they were great against the A's, obviously. Now, losers of 5 in a row, and this is a pivotal week for them. They play 4 games at Kansas City and then 3 games at Texas. Not a good time to be struggling
against 2 very good clubs. They may create their own struggle.
2 good teams that are playing well. Rangers now the second wild card team, so kind of a be careful week for the Baltimore Orioles. But they lose tonight 8-3. Angels have the night off. They'll be in Detroit tomorrow. Rangers are off. They will host the Blue Jays tomorrow. How about that series? Jays at the Rangers tomorrow night. Coco hits one high in the air right to Trumbo. Circles around it. And Trumbo has it 2 away.
I wonder how many of those big bashers were out on the golf course at Las Colinas today on their off day.
Just bombing drives 360 yards. I talked to a scout today, and he just came from that 3-game series in Anaheim, and he said it's as impressive of a 3-game offensive showing as he's ever seen.
I believe it.
I mean, they pounded Garrett Richards. And he said he has not seen, it was as good as he's seen.
So when R.A. Dickey gave up 5 in the first inning, they said no problem.
Very good. They're going to hold up Stephen Vogt, and that's a good idea, as Jackson has a good arm and he gets the throw in quickly. So Ron Washington, his first chance to either wave the arm or put up the stop sign, and he did the right thing by holding Stephen Vogt, even though there were 2 outs. But Jackson playing shallow.
And that's the key. He got to the ball. He has speed. Jackson does. He's a very strong arm. And you have to know the strength of the outfielder's arm, the one hop that he got, and a strong throw in. Zunino, he would have had time. Well, thinking about trying to score if given the opportunity by Ron Washington. He did not and held up. So the A's looking for another 2-out hit. And that seems to be kind of the problem right there. That's why you see at times third base coaches would send a base runner, even though that time Stephen Vogt, who was thrown out at the plate yesterday, probably would have been thrown out again. So it's up to Billy Burns to do it.
And he shoots one into the right field corner. That's going to score 1. That's going to score 2. And they end up holding Sogard.
You know, I think he was sending him.
He was sending him, and Sogard stopped on his own.
Well, and it might have been a little bit confusing because Wash was holding Burns at second, but sending Sogard. So here's the case, getting the slow breaking ball from Iwakuma, and it was a 2-out hit down the corner, and Sogard was running with 2 outs. They had a long run for Cruz to get to the ball, but as Ron Washington approached third base, he was sending Sogard, it looked like, and telling. And see what he does here. And he was trying to send Sogard and hold Burns at the same time. And that's why he stopped at third base. Burns might have been going for 3.
So it turns out a 2-run double for Burns, and it gets the A's right back in this game. Let's get to our McDonald's True Stories. Good time for that. It's Mark Canha in his ranks among the American League rookie leaders. 1st in RBIs, 5th in home runs, 4th in hits. And he's on a hot streak. So he leads all American League rookies in RBIs.
Well, good time to make it a 1-run game if he could do it again.
First pitch to Canha, outside.
Rick Waits, the pitching coach for the Mariners, went out to talk to Iwakuma, and he also took an interpreter. And they are allowed to do that, as Iwakuma and his translator, his interpreter, out there with Rick Waits.
1-0 pitch to Canha, and that's a broken bat down the left field line. But fine. Canha will chalk up a new bat. Maybe let his hands settle down a little bit.
Probably taking more time for that than he gets the new bat. He will take some time.
No.
And this is his rookie season. How's it going to be as he becomes a veteran? His hand. Let me get the feeling in my hand. That's off the end of the bat. Broke the bat in half. And Andy Gonzalez said, "You okay? You got some feeling now?" It's a good looking bat, though, isn't it? Looks like it's got a base in it.
Pitch is hit hard, fair, and that's going to score 2, and we're going to have a 5-4 game. Canha comes through. So the 2 rookies, Burns and Canha, come up big here with 2-out hits, 5-4.
Well, splitter that didn't split, and we have seen the splitters down, but this one stayed up, and Mark Canha, brand new bat, with a double just inside the line. And he was thinking about not going to second base with the ball coming off the sidewall, but he made it there, and that quickly a 1-run game. So back-to-back 2-out hits.
First pitch to Reddick in first strike. So 4 hits in the inning, 3 of them doubles and a walk. Walk to Butler may have been the big at bat in this inning. Obviously, biggest at bat before the 2 hits by Burns and Canha.
Happy your point about Trumbo diving or sliding for the ball and still spitting up blood, probably because it hit him in the chin very hard. But if he held Vogt to a single, the next ground ball was to short, it might have been a double play.
Completely different inning.
Exactly. So he turns a single into a double. Opens up the inning for the Athletics, but you're right, the walk on a 3-2 breaking ball that Butler almost swung at, laid off, and everything from that point, 2 outs.
And 2 high fastball. Reddick fouls it into the second level.
All of a sudden the A's down 5-0, now 5-4, and a hit away from tying the game.
Well, What a game, huh? Baseball.
It's a beautiful game.
Iwakuma.
Yeah.
1 hit through 4 innings, and all of a sudden it's 5-4. 1-2 pitch, and good take by Reddick. There's the splitter, and that was a pretty good splitter. Reddick was able to lay off.
Great slow motion grip. You see the grip and the ball breaking down and away, and you just watch the ball. I mean, you see the split, try to stay with it, and if nothing else, just try to foul off a pitcher's pitch.
Two, threw it again, and a close play at first, and Reddick is safe, and the run's going to come in and score.
Wow.
Montero decided not to flip it, and when he didn't flip it, Reddick just beat him.
And Canna just kept running.
Yep.
Watch Can at the top of the screen, but even more importantly, Reddick hustling down the line. And this is all on Josh Reddick to be safe, and then Montero looked to see what the call was, and that slight turn around to look was just enough for Canada to score. But the hustle by Josh Reddick, once he saw the ball was fair, and the foot raised, but you're right. When Montero tried to go, then turned around and look, and Canada kept going. And remember one thing, Ron Washington, when he managed the Rangers and he had Gary Pettis coaching third, how many times did they score a runner from second on an infield hit? And he did it again. He had Canna continue to run, and Canna did not break stride and kept going. What a way to get an RBI.
So now Valencia hits.
Oh, Mark Canna run to third, and he just kept going. Why not? All these 2-out hits are great, but if you can steal a run, and see, that's the inexperience of Montero playing first base too, that he just turned around, maybe thinking he had gotten Reddick at first base when obviously he didn't. But when he turned around and looked at the umpire, got the save call. If he had looked immediately to the plate like pitchers do in the PFPs, he would have gotten Canna, but it was just enough of a hesitation.
A pitch to Valencia right on the outside corner, 1-1. So what an inning. A's have scored 5 hits, couple of mistakes defensively by the Mariners. And again, mistakes that will not show up as errors in the box score.
All earnings. All right. But in this inning, all with 2 outs. Sogard a single, double, 2-run in, double, 2 runs, single. 4 consecutive 2-out hits. Something you very rarely see.
Edgar almost starts to throw, young left-hander. Valencia left field, hit well. Trumbo going back, and that baby is gone, and the A's have taken the lead 7-5.
That's Lloyd McClendon going to the mound. That's all for Iwakuma. He's not going to make it through the 5th. Not only not making it to the 5th, all this with 2 outs. The A's have scored 7 runs with 2 outs. And that swing by Valencia, reminiscent of the home run he hit against R.A. Dickey, the knuckleball. He got the splitter that didn't split. And Iwakuma, with 2 outs, leaves trailing 7-5.
So when it's time for A's have scored 7 times here in the 5th inning, and here's the final 2.
There's your splitter and stayed on it. And really, a split finger fastball that doesn't split is like a knuckleball that doesn't knuckle. And Valencia hit R.A. Dickey, his former teammate, and gets Iwakuma. And I must say the splitter early was really working well. But but in this inning, nothing. And so a lefty in the 5th inning, and Iwakuma has to be shell-shocked, as the Mariners fans and the Mariners players.
And there's a shot to the gap in left center field, and that's going to roll all the way to the wall. And Stephen Vogt will stop at second with his 2nd double this inning.
That might be a record. He got 2 hits in the same inning yesterday.
I was going to say the A's had a 7-run inning yesterday.
That's right.
And they come back with a 7-run inning tonight. That
was 7 runs yesterday in the 7th inning. Tonight in the 5th inning. But Stephen Vogt yesterday, 2 hits, both times with 2 strikes. This one a legitimate double. First one aided by Trumbo in left field, but Iwakuma cannot believe it. 777s in 4 2/3 innings. And he's got to be
Story outside.
Be thinking I pitched a no-hitter 2 starts ago, and they're treating me this way.
Man to bat in the inning. Edgar Olmos is 25 years old. Part of a completely revamped Mariners bullpen.
4-pitch pitcher with a couple of different fastballs, 2 and 4 seam. Likes to use his fastball, low 90s.
That one's hit hard, but right at Trumbo, who backs up, reaches up, makes the catch. Side retired. The A's get 7 runs in the 5th inning, all with 2 outs. So quite an inning for the Athletics, and we go to the bottom of the 5th, and the A's now lead 7-5.
Fireworks show of the season that celebrate Green Day's induction to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. The East Bay natives and longtime A's fans will be in attendance for a special pregame presentation, followed by a postgame fireworks show set to the music of this iconic rock band. Fans are invited to watch the show from the field, but please, note space is limited. And it is that good series at Final Fireworks. This has been a good series so far. The first game of this 3-game series. A's 7 runs, all coming with 2 outs in the 5th inning.
When it's time for a change, think Speedy Oil Change and Tune-Up. Your oil change, tune-up, and smog experts. Edward Majica comes in for appearance number 37.
I'd say he's loose because he started warming up when the A's started hitting the last top of the inning. 11 batters later, he's in the game. So,
and he's fresh too because he hasn't pitched since last Sunday. It's over a week. Facing Cruz, Cano, and Gutierrez. Cruz a strikeout, and then he was hit by a pitch and scored in that third inning. So Scribner goes 2 innings, gives up 5 hits and 5 runs. And now Mejica pitches, but he's pitching with a lead. So the Mariners scored 5 in the third. The A's score 7 in the fifth.
Those are big crooked numbers.
And that one on the inside corner, strike 3 call. Mejica may have missed his target, but it was still a strike.
And Cruz knew it. He just saw the pitch, saw the way it reacted, and turned around and started walking the dugout. Hard splitter that stayed inside, and Stephen Vogt, a good job once again catching the ball. But again, credit to the umpire, Manny Gonzalez. That's twice pitches have been way off target, but both times called strikes. Seager in the first inning, and now Cruz in the fifth.
So Robinson Cano steps up. Cano is 2 for 2. 2 singles, RBI, a run scored, a couple of line drives. 1 hit to Brandt. That was in the first inning, and Brandt later had to leave the game.
Well, there are times that a team can look at a defensive play and say it kind of inspires their offense. In that fourth inning, before the A's scored the 7 in the fifth, Josh Reddick made that throw to second.
Sure.
And who knows? Maybe that was just enough to say, oh, they're trying to rub it in a little bit, turn a single into a double. Reddick throws him out. He's come up big. 7 on 7. Reddick another assist. Something he's been working hard with Ty Waller on his throwing. One of the most accurate outfielders in the game, really, as far as the arm strength and the accuracy of the throws.
Cano bounces this one to Laurie. Laurie has it. That's the second out. This would be a good time to have a shutdown.
Yes, it would. He's got those Billy Butler socks on, too.
Yep.
Kind of floating around the A's clubhouse. They're straighter, though. Whatever it takes.
Gutierrez has a strikeout and a 3-run homer. No, he has 8 home runs and 25 RBIs. This was the home run to right center field.
This is almost like the dagger when this happened. 3-run home run in a 5-run inning. In trouble would hit a hanging curveball a little bit later, but well, that made it 4-0. A lot of things looking good for the Mariners, especially against an A's team and not been scoring a lot of runs here at Safeco Field. That changed last inning. This inning, Bob Melvin did manage here. Here, the Diamondbacks, and now the Athletics.
So 3-1 now to Gutierrez, with Austin Jackson waiting to possibly hit next. Hit to center. Burns is there though, and he makes the catch. So a line drive out. Mejica will take it, and he gets the 3 up, 3 down shutdown inning. 6th inning coming up. A's 7, Mariners 5. brought to you by PG&E, together building a better California. Beautiful Space Needle in the heart of downtown Seattle. The youngsters, see, he wasn't moving around like that when it was 5-0, but now it's 7-5 and his team is in the lead.
Probably said, "You promised me cotton candy if the A's scored 7 in the 5th." And he just got his cotton candy.
Right. Dad thought he was safe. The wallet would be staying in the pocket. The A's with a 7 spot. And now lead 7-5. Butler hits a high pop-up headed for the seats. Butler walked and scored in that 5th inning. He worked to get the walk and kind of got the inning rolling, put multiple base runners on. All part of that 7-run inning. Butler also struck out in the 2nd inning. Facing Edgar Olmos. Good pitch there with a fastball. 93 on the inside corner to even the count 2-2. That one's hit to center. Jackson gets back there though, and he's under it, and he's got it. So 1 out here in the top of the 6th inning. Only one other game going on, and that's in the National League. It's St. Louis and Arizona. 2-2 game in the 7th inning in Phoenix. Cardinals still in first place in the Central, but getting a lot of heat from the Pirates and the Cubs, especially the Pirates.
Yeah, Pirates are picking it up like they have in the last couple of years.
Sure are. The top 3 records in the National League: St. Louis 1, Pittsburgh 2, Chicago 3. So what's probably going to happen in the National League is there's going to be a really, really good team who's going to have to go on the road for the wild card game.
That's a great point. Yeah.
Because it's right now Pittsburgh and Chicago, the 2 wild card teams, by a large margin. So we'll see what happens. But 3 very good teams in the same division. Coco drills one toward right, but Cruz over, and he reaches up. It's a high backhand play, 2 outs. And that'll bring up Sogard. Astros lost earlier in New York, so the Rangers, who are idle, pick up a half a game. They're now 3.5 back. National League East, the Mets won again. Mets now have a 5.5 game lead over the Nationals. Mets hit 7 home runs tonight at home. They have been playing great, haven't they?
Cespedes has brought that home run
swagger.
Yeah.
They beat the Phillies 16-7. That game was in Philadelphia.
Well, let's carry there.
David Wright came back, so add him to the lineup.
He wanted to get involved in all that happiness in New York, in Flushing.
Sogard into the seats, and the count 1-2. So that's how the division races look. Dodgers still a 1.5 game lead over the Giants in the National League West. Blue Jays, Yankees tied in the East now after the Yankees win. Sogard a strikeout and a single. Also scored a run. Chops this one toward the shortstop. Charging is Marte. Throws in time. Side retired. Edgar almost has a 3 up, 3 down, top of the 6th. Bottom of the 6th coming up.
How about this? 7 runs in the 5th inning. Billy Butler walked, scored. Mark Canha 2-run double down the line with a new bat. Sogard scored. This is a great one. Josh Reddick hustling. Montero for some reason did not tag it quickly enough, and then Dana Valencia 2-run home run hit top of the fence and bounced over. That was on the splitter. That was the last pitch thrown by Iwakuma as the A's came up very, very big with 7 in the 5th inning. Stephen Vogt with a couple of doubles in that 1 inning. 7-8-0, 5-9-0. Find out what's possible with AT&T. Call 1-800-PICK-ATT, mobilizing your world.
Edward Mujica had a 3 up, 3 down 5th inning. See if he can do the same here in the bottom of the 6th. Jackson, Trumbo, Montero. So there'll be plenty of work tonight for the A's bullpen, with Dubront leaving after 2 innings. Injured foot. Took a line drive off that foot.
Another reliever warming up for the Athletics, so maybe 2-2-2-2-1.
That would be a good thing. Mujica grabs that one, flips it to first. Jackson's out. It's Pat Venditti out there, who probably has those fans that are standing on that fence watching him, and they're just probably check out this left-hander, huh? Yeah. Venditti, and he's going to flip his glove, and they're just going to be like, what?
See the Cardinal fan. Now he's having a fingers. Wait a minute.
Wait a minute, that guy was just throwing left-handed. We call it the Pat Venditti experience.
That's right.
Coming to a bullpen near you. So they're checking it out.
It's got to be one of the all-time best bullpens, though, for the fans anyway. I don't know about for the relievers.
Trumbo down the right field line, but foul.
Did you hear the in-house announcement?
Switch pitcher.
Yeah.
So 1-2 to Trumbo. Trumbo has single and homer. Fastball a little bit outside at 92 miles an hour. Trumbo reaches for it and rolls it foul.
See how hard Mojica's throwing his splitter, and Iwakuma had left some of the splitters up, but as a starting pitcher, but Mojica coming in out of the bullpen, and he's throwing everything hard, including the splitter, and Trumbo just barely hit on top of it to hit the ball foul.
Sogard backhands, throws, and a nice play by Eric Sogard. 2 outs.
Now the splitter, ground ball towards the end of the bat. Sogard playing a very, very solid shortstop again. Backhand, sets himself right over the top, and the Sogi Sox can't wait for the back.
You know, that's one of those plays, Ray, where you hear it a lot to maybe younger players. And I'm talking about Little League, high school, say, always try to get in front of the ball.
Yeah.
But that's a play where it's just easier to backhand it because you're already set up to throw after you field the backhand.
No way you can get around in front of the ball. You don't have enough time. And even with Trumbo running, who does not run fast, but you know, infielders are taught backhand the ball as much as possible, or to set yourself up to be able to make the throw. And Sogard did it perfectly.
Up the third base line, Mojica throws, and they got Montero. Edward Mojica, 6 up, 6 down. Nicely done as we go to the 7th inning here at Safeco Field. The A's leading 7-5. Jesse Chavez will take a 7-12 record into the start. He'll be opposed by left-hander Mike Montgomery, who is 4-6 ERA, just a shade over 4. That's tomorrow, and our coverage starts at 6:30 here on CSN California. We'll start with A's pregame live, and then the ball game a little after 7. It'll be game 2 of the series. Day game on Wednesday, off day Thursday, 3 in Arizona this weekend. So the new pitcher is another lefty out of the bullpen, Rob Rasmussen. So Edgar Olmos goes an inning and a third, and now it's Rasmussen.
And everything the A's saw from Olmos, that we'll see from this lefty. The same exact fastball, curveball, slider, changeup. Velocity about the same on all the pitches. So a new name, but similarity in their styles of pitching.
So the Mariners bullpen. And just stay with me here. Charlie Furbush, who's been a mainstay in that bullpen, he's on the disabled list, and he could very easily be out for the rest of the year. Bicep tendonitis. Joe Beimel, another lefty, shoulder inflammation. He's on the disabled list. Danny Farquhar had a very good year last year. Farquhar in the minor leagues. Mark Lowe, traded. Fernando Rodney, designated for assignment. I mean, those, you could make the point, Ray, that those were their main 5 guys last year.
Absolutely.
And they're none of them are in the bullpen now. Remember Yorvis Medina? He was traded earlier in the year.
Rick Waite's a pitching coach. A little bit different year this year for him, as the bullpen has not been exactly the way it was last year.
Their bullpen last year had a 2.59 ERA, best in the American League, and this year it's almost been a disaster. Fernando Rodney, ERA of well over 5.
I guess with Rodney, that arrow just came back when he shot it up. Came back and got him. That's got to be something for the Mariners. They don't have somebody shooting the arrow anymore. That was always strange anyway. Because the invisible arrow. And then Logan Morrison was looking to see where it would go.
And Cano grabs it. So Billy Burns is retired, leading off the 7th inning.
But with all the expectations for the Mariners and bullpen, as you mentioned, coming off last year, they had to be thinking that they were going to be able to have the starters go 7 and then lock it down for the rest of the game, the 8th and 9th. That's Pete Vukovich on the right of Jack Sorensen. Pete Vukovich, longtime Milwaukee Brewer. Jack Sorensen was originally with the Brewers. Vukovich was in the movie. Which movie was Vukovich in? Because he was the bad guy.
He was the bad guy. He was the hitter.
I know, but yeah. Was it Angels in the Outfield?
Rick Waite's never played a bad guy.
No.
He's too nice of a guy.
That mustache, he could be a gunslinger, though. He's a teammate.
Another hit for Canha. So Mark Canha continues to be hot, and now the ball's rolling around the middle of the infield, and Canha takes off and he goes to second. Not quite sure how that happens.
Just heads up base running by Mark Canha, round of the base aggressively, which we've seen him do it, and the throw came back in from the outfield. Missed somebody, but it was not just jogging to first base by Mark Canha. And once he got to first with the throw coming back in from Trumbo, somebody missed it. We'll find out right here. And E7 is the throw. Oh, no, not paying attention either. That's not good.
And I think that's Cano's fault.
I agree.
I mean, listen, the error should be on Trumbo because the throw was high, but Cano has to be paying attention.
Well, once it went on Marte's head, and Cano was at second base and went right by him. And heads up base running by Canha, and completely turning this game around for the Athletics.
So Canha 2 for 4. And he now has 15 hits in his last 28 at bats. And they're not bloopers either.
And for a while he couldn't buy a hit. You talked about in the homestand with Ike Davis unfortunately having had surgery and missed the rest of the season, that Mark Canha, an opportunity to play first base every day, and he's proving that he can show some ability around the bag, but also swing the bat well.
Hard hit ball, right center field, and that's a base hit. And Canha will score easily, and Reddick has an RBI hit, and it's 8-5. And Mark Canha's heads up base running helps the A's get a run.
And Josh Reddick again hitting the ball harder than his last base hit. But this is one thing, and again, Robinson Cano, a veteran. Look where he's at second base. Look where this ball is. Now, can he dive? Maybe not to knock the ball down, but if he tries. But some guys just don't dive, and that's one thing with a runner at second base in scoring position. try to keep the ball on the infield, and whether or not he could have gotten to it, the ball was hit hard, and maybe he's smart enough to know how hard it was hit and he could not get to it. But sometimes just getting the uniform dirty is going to impress your teammates. Time now for the forward right choice, Dan Valencia. This puts the A's ahead. A split finger fastball from Iwakuma hit the top of the fence into the bullpen of the Mariners, and the A's with a 7-5 lead at that time now have made it 8-5 thanks to the hustle and the hitting of Canna and Josh Reddick.
So 0-2 now to Valencia. Valencia's home run was his 12th of the year.
That was a strange sight to actually see somebody talking quickly to the man who talks quicker than anybody.
Valencia goes down and a pitch way inside.
The man.
Reddick not a real big lead at first. Valencia did not go. 2-2 the count.
Curveball. Yeah, very close. Definitely did not. I mean, that time back towards the pitcher, the catcher.
Reddick inches off a little bit further, and they throw that way. He's had one hit through the first 4 innings. They got 9 hits in the last 3 innings. And a high fastball at 95 miles an hour. Rasmussen strikes out Valencia.
Well, it's a pretty good fastball upstairs, and Valencia, who hit the splitter from Iwakuma, could not catch up to the fastball, dropped his bat, and after the swing, sometimes it indicate an injury, maybe dropping the bat the way he did, picked it up, took it back to the dugout. Definitely not the third out.
So here is Stephen Vogt. Vogt with 2 doubles in the 5th inning. He's the 7th A's player with 2 extra base hits in an inning since 1984. The last time Coco Chris did it in Houston on April 5th of 2013. But how about 2 hits in the same inning in consecutive games?
That's right.
So I'll let you work on that when you get back to your hotel room tonight.
I don't
bring
think
that information tomorrow.
No, we'll let the
A's
boys
history.
Let the boys in the truck do it. I was not there April the 5th because Lindsay was getting married that day.
That's right. You had much more important things to do. I was there, but I remember very little.
I think that's what on the Anaheim. Coco hit lit off or home runs in 4 consecutive games, 3 or 4 consecutive games.
Reddick runs, and the ball goes off the glove of Zunino all the way to the backstop, so it'll be a stolen base for Reddick.
That will be a stolen base with Reddick on the move, and Stephen Vogt just getting out of the way and up and in. Zunino could not handle it, and Reddick got a great jump anyway, but wow. Zunino tried to make the transfer. The ball never got into his glove.
One and Vogt high and fouled on the left field line. 7 runs in an inning in consecutive games for the first time since 1975. And I know, Ray, you remember that.
I was there, but I don't remember.
You were probably
as
right
you were just saying.
You were right in the middle of both big innings, I'm sure.
Right.
You probably went first to third a couple times. Vogt swings and misses, side retired, but Reddick with an RBI single. So we have reached the 7th inning stretch here at Safeco Field, and the A's now lead 8-5. Left-handed hitter Seager. So we're going to see a little bit of everything from Pat Venditti.
And we hope a lot of success. Last pitched in the game in Oakland.
One pitch, and Zunino skies one toward Burns in center, and he's got it, and that's out number 1. All right, so now we can check out Venditti declare what arm he's going to throw with.
Looks like right-handed.
Yep, there you go. There's the declaration. Right-handed. Umpire comes out in front of home plate, checks, turns around, tells the hitter, who's Marte, the switch hitter. Marte switches helmets. There's a lot going on.
Takes off his shin guard, puts
changes
it on the other foot.
Gloves, changes the pad for the other finger. He's got to have a different shin guard, different helmet. All right, we're ready to go. You think this is easy, Ray? There's a lot that goes into this. So Venditti decides to throw right-handed.
Why doesn't he switch right now? Let him switch and then Marte go back and do the whole thing again. No, he had to declare before Marte. I'm surprised that Marte didn't just come up assuming. And according to Derek Shelton of the Tampa Bay Rays, this would be the first time that Venditti has pitched right-handed to a switch hitter. Because he told me, I had no idea. He said he pitched left-handed to switch hitters all the time. So that's something you can work on when you go back to the hotel tonight.
I'm working on it as we speak.
Check on your history.
And not a lot of at-bats for Marte to really steer things one way or the other statistically. 41 at-bats right-handed, 29 left-handed. One and two the count. Seager, the left-handed hitter, will hit next, so Venditti will throw left-handed to him. A's leading 8-5 in the bottom of the 7th. Kind of a frisbee slider from Venditti. Elias, seen him as a starter now, pitching out of the bullpen, at least for the time being. Marte, 2 singles, a double, a couple of stolen bases, and a run scored, and he hits that one hard. Laurie makes a nice play, fires to first. And that's out number 2.
What took him so long to switch?
He switched immediately.
He's switching on his way to first base. That's cool, isn't it? The manufacturer's getting a lot of airtime, aren't they? Don't even have to say who it is, just read it.
First pitch to Seager is a slider outside. Seager is 0 for 3, couple of strikeouts and a foul out. Good pitch there, fastball.
As someone was saying today, it seems like Pat Venditti throws the same both right hand and left hand, and he does really. Sliders, fastball tops out really 83, 84, so not really overpowering with the heater. 85, overthrew it outside. The slider seems to be his best pitch. A's with a 3-run lead. They did add on in the top of the inning.
Playable for Vogt. Flips the mask, side retired. So that's 10 in a row retired by the A's bullpen, and we're going to the 8th. And the A's lead 8-5.
And choose your exact seating location for next season. The A's offer a variety of full and partial season plans that qualify for great benefits, including half-price parking, a flexible ticket exchange program, and more. For more information, call 510-638-GO-A's or visit athletics.com/2016. It will be here before we know it. A lot of baseball to be played. The A's trying to finish on a strong positive note tonight. Is one of the biggest and the most positive so far in a while. To be down by 5 and now lead by 3 in the 8th inning.
Roenis Elias steps in, his first time coming out of the bullpen this year. He was just brought up from the minor leagues when the Mariners made a bunch of changes to their pitching staff. It sounds like at some point Elias will go back into the rotation in the month of September, but right now, pitch out of the bullpen just for a short time. He's had some good outings against the Athletics. Facing Laurie, Butler, and Crisp here in the top of the 8th inning. He's with an 8-5 lead. So right now, the Mariners have 4 left-handers in their bullpen, and we may see them all tonight. Olmos, Rasmussen, Elias, and David Rollins, who is warming up as we speak out of the bullpen. There he is. 4 lefties, 3 righties.
And tonight, both bullpens have done very well, with the exception Scribner gave up the 5, but Hayes came back against Iwakuma. All the runs against the starter tonight. 1 unearned run against Rasmussen, who just finished the 7th inning.
So a leadoff walk to Laurie. Sounds like Sounders coming by. Huh?
Yes, yes.
Late night pickup for Sounder, the train that runs right behind the outfield. Butler hits one very high, shallow left. Marte, the shortstop, makes the catch.
Time I hear that, I always wonder if somebody's being sent down
to Tacoma.
Yeah,
which is
stop on the way.
That is a stop if you're going south on Sounder.
This has kind of been Billy Butler's season. How about this? Pitch, swing, got it, straight up the chute. Can't believe it.
So Billy Butler 0 for 3 tonight. A walk and a run scored as Coco Crisp steps up.
That young Mariners employee sitting there by the A's dugout might be getting an earful tonight.
What a great place to sit.
Yeah, just right down at the edge of the A's dugout. He's probably an employee making sure that everything is all right. I assume they're in the Mariners gear. Maybe they're
right by the bat rack.
You trying to pick up some signs? There they are. Young boy right behind Darren Bush. He's been looking at the dugout, wondering what is going on. Why are they screaming and yelling like that?
We should do a game from down there, right? That little spot right there.
That's it.
It's behind where those 2 gentlemen, maybe ground screw.
Yeah, we could talk to Darren Bush.
Just sit right there, you and I.
See the gentleman, this guy right here, the closest to us, his head's been in the dugout, so evidently something's been going on. When Billy Butler just missed that pitch, I could imagine what he said. And that's when the young man started looking at the dugout. And
that's right. So that would, because I usually sit on that side, so that would be my spot.
That would be you, yeah. So you talk to Darren Bush, find out how the pitcher's pitching, what he's going to throw.
We could do one heck of a telecast from down there.
And then it's a quick getaway because the tunnel goes right.
Plus, if it was a bad night by the umpires, they'd walk right by there, and we could let them know how we feel. No, we wouldn't do that.
Well, we could establish the Glenn Kuiper umpires rule, like they had the Brooke Jacoby rule in Boston.
We've seen umpires stop right there and go at it with players in the A's dugout. We saw it a couple years ago. A little bit inside the Coco, who has hit a fly ball to center, a fly ball to left, and a fly ball to right. Coco with the pant legs pulled up high. 1-2 pitch is fouled at the plate. Hard slider from Elias. reached for, hit the shallow right center. Austin Jackson comes in, makes the catch. So I was reading earlier today, Ray, about the fact that Austin Jackson has cleared waivers. And again, it's just what was out there. Seemed to sound like there was a possibility that he could get traded.
Which that's an important point that you just brought up, because players are put on waivers. Once they clear, that means 29 other clubs don't want them.
That's right.
Then the team that they belong to, this time the Mariners, could move him wherever he wants to go, or wherever they want to send him.
Then it becomes just regular trade him to who you want to trade him to.
And the difference this time of the year, past the July 31st deadline, is that they do have to clear waivers. And if a player is claimed, be careful, because the team might say you can have him. And then you have to pick up the contract. And whatever's left on the contract, and we have seen some players in the past who have changed teams unexpectedly because the team is trying to block them from going to another club. That's a good point. Austin Jackson, a good outfielder and had postseason experience.
Yep, and he's a free agent after the year.
And it's long.
The Mariners would think about bringing him back. That is possible, but we're not saying it's going to happen. We're just saying that's the kind of player that could get moved. Cano has it. He'll take it himself. Steps on second base. And the side is retired. So Laurie has a leadoff walk. Nothing else for the A's. Bottom of the 8th coming up. A's with a 3-run lead. Semi brought to you by your local Toyota dealers. Mariners with 5 in the 3rd, A's with 7 in the 5th, add another in the 7th. It's 8-5. The A's lead the Mariners. Dubront left after 2 innings. He was hit by a line drive in the 1st inning. And for Iwakuma, he was rolling along, and then things just completely fell apart in that 5th inning. So A's trying to hang on as the Mariners come to bat here in the bottom of the 8th inning. Venditti stays out there. He'll face Cruz, Cano, Gutierrez, the 3-4-5 hitters.
And this is quite a challenge for Pat Venditti to be in this part of the lineup. Toughest part for the Mariners, and great experience for him. So he goes right, left, right.
Cruz blasts one to center. Burns is going back. He's near the wall, and he's got just enough room, and he makes the catch.
That's a slider. Provide your own power, and maybe a little bit towards the end of the bat, enough to keep it in the park, the biggest part of the park. And that's one of the great things about being a pitcher, is not overpowering. You throw a good fastball. It sounded like a pretty good contact by Cruz, but because it was a slider, he had to provide his own power, and he's got plenty of that, but it did stay in the park.
First pitch to Cano is a fastball inside. Couple of hits tonight for Cano. One of them knocked in a run, and now the count even at 1-1. That slider from Venditti. So Venditti has faced 4 hitters. He's retired them all. Mahika had a good 2 innings. Scribner gave up 5 in his 2 innings. Pitch there. The backswing got Stephen Vogt. Cano checks on Vogt, make sure he's okay.
As Steven said, it's just another part of my body been hit. What's new? I get hit all the time. So whether it's a bat or a baseball, it's off the helmet, the mask. And three is a slider. Got him swinging and missing again, or at least the previous pitch.
Pretty good swing that time by Cano. He may have had an idea that that's what he was going to get.
I would think with all the scouting reports that are out that to figure that slider, whether it's a right-handed or left-handed from Venditti, it's going to be the same. He's going to throw a lot of them. It's just whenever that sneaky fastball comes in, the hitter going to be ready.
Swing and a miss. He got him with a slider. So the first strikeout for Venditti. So 2 away.
Did stay with it, and really a pretty good pitch to hit. Stayed towards the middle of the plate, but the movement and Cano just opened up too much and no contact. And by the time he had swung and missed, Venditti had changed gloves or changed hands. Sleight of hand.
I didn't even see it. There's that frisbee slider in first strike. Gutierrez has a 3-run homer in the 3rd. That one could have been a strike, but call the ball inside. Broken bat. Sogard flips it across, side retired. 6 up and 6 down for Pat Venditti. Terrific job by the ace switch pitcher. It's 8-5 as we go to the 9th.
of the game. Edward Mujica, 3 up and 3 down, 6 up and 6 down. Great play here by himself, getting Montero. So he retired the 6 batters he faced, and Pat Venditti from the left side and the right side. He retired 6 batters himself. So since the 4th inning, when Marte singled, was thrown out at second trying to stretch the single into a double, the A's bullpen has retired everybody. And I say bullpen because starting the game was Dupont, but he had a ball hit off his foot. Lasted just 2 innings, but Scribner, Mujica, Venditti, and maybe Venditti for the 9th. Nobody's warming up yet.
New pitcher for the Mariners is David Rollins. So he's the 4th relief pitcher of the night for Seattle, and all 4 have been left-handers, and he faces Burns, who tries to hold up, can't do it. Burns, Canna, and Reddick here in the top of the 9th. A's with an 8-5 lead. Burns with a big double in the 5th inning. It scored a pair. And then just foul. And at that time, his double made the score 5-2. And they were just happy that the A's were back in the game. But then Canna, Reddick, Valencia all came up with huge 2-out hits. And when the inning finally came to an end, the A's had scored 7 times and led 7-5.
And nice to score the unearned run in the 7th inning, thanks to good hustle again by Mark Canna. You know, the ball that Billy Burns hit to right field, and that's when the confusion ensued at third base when Ron Washington looked like he's holding up Burns, sending Sogard. Burns probably was thinking 3. With his speed and the way he runs, and the ball down in the corner, Cruz took a long time to get to the ball.
Down the right field line, it will drop just foul. And you know what? It's a tough situation for the third base coach. Yeah. But I guess you have to make sure. I guess your most important runner is the guy coming to third.
Exactly.
And maybe scoring.
Wash's first game back at third base.
Oh, 2 to Burns. And again, foul back.
Marcus Jensen working with the young man to his left, and that is Stephen Vogt. Josh Fengley working with the catchers and continue to put the hard work in, blocking balls in the dirt. I did not see anybody warming up the A's bullpen. Do you?
You're not.
Which means that Pat Venditti would have the 9th. Did retire the 6 batters that he faced, and has retired them so far. So bullpen is quiet.
Broken bat, little flare, and that will fall. So Burns has a bloop signal. I will tell you this, Ray, as I look through my binoculars, Pomeranz is sitting there with a jacket covering just his left arm, and I wonder if he's not going to start throwing. I don't know. That's just what I'm seeing. But he has not made any move to start.
No, he hasn't.
Until maybe now. So here's Canna. Canna hits it hard right to Cano, who fires back to first. Double play. A quick release from Cano, and Burns could not quite get back. So another hard hit ball by Mark Canna, but this time it's right to the second baseman, and it ends up a double play.
Now, no surprising, Billy Burns with so much speed, he started just enough for him to start with his lead off first base and a couple of steps towards second. Cano with that great turn, almost like a double play, which it was, but normally turning at second base.
So now Reddick will bat.
the play. Montero catching the ball easily. 3 right-handers are scheduled to be coming up for the Mariners in the bottom of the 9th inning. Jackson, Trumbo, Montero, and actually Zunino.
That one is ripped to right. And that baby's gone. And Reddick has homered. He's got a 3 RBI night. And now it's 9-5.
And now the save situation is a moot point because it really doesn't matter. All that matters now is the A's have scored another run, now lead by 4, and Josh Reddick has just hit another home run against a lefty, only the 3rd time this year. Fastball down and in against Rollins, the lefty, and that's a good swing. A very good swing on a fastball down and in. And a big run for the Athletics.
Here's Valencia. So home run number 15 for Reddick. He now has 64 RBIs on the season. Two 2-0 to Valencia. He's got his own home run tonight. Fastball, and Valencia swings through it. The 12 homers and 42 RBIs for Valencia. Of course, combined numbers this year. A little flare, and it is going to fall, and Valencia has a hit. So he's 2 for 5. He's now with 13 hits in the game.
He hit one hard to left center for a home run. This inside out, looped it over first base, and Montero going back as quickly as he could not get to it.
So Stephen Vogt looking for his 3rd hit. He's got a couple of doubles and a run scored. Chases the slider. High strike, 0-2 to Vogt. Pomeranz is out in the bullpen. The A's have scored 9 unanswered runs. It was 5-0 after 4 innings.
Check swing and Stephen Vogt. No swing there for sure.
And there's another hit, a line drive to right field. So Stephen Vogt is 3 for 5.
How about that check swing, and then hits a bullet to right field. After the check swing, came back with a slider that hung right in the middle of the plate to Vogt.
So 4 hits in this inning. And a line drive out into a double play. Laurie gets a chance to swing it, and he takes low. Laurie probably didn't think he'd hit in this inning after Canna lined into the double play, but that was 3 hitters ago. Tonight has single, grounded out, flied out, and walked. So 1 for 3. 16th game tonight. The fact that for the most part he stayed healthy, I think that's got to make him very happy.
Considering he played in only 70 last year.
70 last year.
Ed Lynch knew exactly what he's talking about. Keep him on the field and have a good season. He's had a very good year for the Athletics in his first season.
Fair down the right field line. Valencia will score. It's a long run for Cruz, and they're going to wave Vogt home. And Stephen Vogt digging for the plate, and he will score. And it's a 2-run double for Laurie, and it's now 11-5. That ball hit the side wall, and it just kind of stopped. And that forced Cruz to have to run a long way, and can help the decision of Ron Washington to send Stephen Vogt.
Once again, we see Brett Laurie doing this, taking a high fastball, shooting it to right field. And Wash's former team, the Texas Rangers, saw Neftali Flees do that. Stephen with Brett Laurie down in the corner, and I don't think Cruz thought Vogt was going to try to score, and he went after it, jogging a little bit. This man does not jog. Is Brett Laurie all the way? Stephen Vogt coming all the way, being sent by Ron Washington. He started the slide, realized though, did not have to.
So that'll bring up Butler. Takes a big rip at the first pitch. So Laurie now 49 RBIs on the year. And the A's have 15 hits in this game. Another good swing by Butler, and it's 0-2. Butler likes that ball out over the plate. He hits the ball to right field well. I think he liked that last pitch. Blocked by Zunino.
It's going to be an interesting call for the official score tonight.
Who's the winning pitcher? That's a good call.
The starter doesn't go the regulation time. It's up to the official score. Tonight it would be 5 innings for Dubron, but he had to come out after 2 because of the injury.
Yeah, because Scribner left after the 4th inning, and he gave up the 5 in the 3rd, and then in the top of the 5th, that's when he was scored all the way. So I'm going to guess. I'm going to say, well, he got it.
That started the consecutive outs by the bullpen.
It's as good a guess as any.
But Venditti.
Venditti could get it too.
Or DeBron. Because he had to leave after getting hit in the foot.
So Billy Butler strikes out, but the A's tack on 3 more. They get 5 more hits, and we go to the bottom of the 9th. It's now 11-5. The A's lead.
Toyota, the full-line automaker with the longest-lasting vehicles in America. Toyota, let's go places. By Xfinity, home of the most live sports. And by Black Bear Diner. Feed your inner bear.
So the A's have stormed back, and they now lead 11-5, and they're 3 outs away from getting a victory here in Seattle. Remember the last time the A's were here back in May, the Mariners swept the 3-game series from the A's. So the A's trying to change that from what happened at the beginning of the season. And Drew Pomeranz comes in to try to get the final 3 outs. So he's the 5th pitcher of the night for the A's. Dubron, Scribner, Mahika, Venditti, and Pomeranz. And Austin Jackson steps up. First pitch to Jackson is a fastball, a little high. Jackson has singled and grounded out twice. Sam Fold is in the game in left field. In there, first strike. So Pat Venditti goes 2 innings, no hits, no runs, and 1 strikeout. So a very good performance by Venditti.
Well, assuming the A's hang on and win this game, we know who the loser is going to be. Just a question of the winner. Iwakuma is the losing pitcher because he gave up the 7 in the 5th inning and left with the A's leading. Of course, Mariners have not scored since they scored the 5. That was in the 3rd inning.
It's hard to believe that he gave up 7 runs tonight. But it happened quickly.
Yeah.
But his stuff was very good, but then it just kind of flattened out. 2-2 the count to Austin Jackson. Trumbo to follow, and then Montero. The 6, 7, and 8 hitters for Seattle. Fastball not close. 93 miles an hour from Pomeranz. 3-2. Swing and a miss. Good pitch there. Fastball down and in, and that is the 10th strikeout tonight by these pitchers.
One of the best pitches that Pomeranz can throw is that pitch. The fastball down and in. And you go back to the game against Tampa Bay that Asdrubal Cabrera got the curveball first pitch. He hit the right field. Yet for Pomeranz, when he throws the fastball inside the right-handers, there's not many who can catch up to it. That's how good of a pitch it is, how hard he throws it inside.
Trumbo chops it to third. Valencia on the move. 2 outs. And Montero, the final hope for Seattle. Montero is 0 for 3. Fly ball to right, a strikeout, and ground out back to the pitcher. Mariners have made some mistakes tonight, and the A's have capitalized on every one of them. And you wonder if the misplay at first base, or really the bad decision by Montero at first base, I mean, that was just a huge play. Reddick's back. He's under it. He's got it, and that's the ball game. So the A's storm back, and once trailing 5-0, when it's all said and done, they win it 11-5. So the A's take game 1 of this series, and they do it in fine fashion. And outside of Scribner, the bullpen did a terrific job, and they picked up Evan Scribner. So Took 3 hours and 9 minutes, and it was played in front of 17,970. 11-5, A's beat the Mariners. You've been watching A's baseball on CSN California, part of the NBC Sports Group. Don't go away. A's post-game live with Henry Wolford and Bip Roberts starts right now.